Dr. Karen Sobel Gutierrez.
Is there a clicker to advance
I don't have
the
it.
slides? Is this it?
Dr. Wyatt, information?
Here it is.
Is this it?
Oh, hush.
So here's the blue spot.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
You're colorblind if you can't see that.
One second. I pulled the file over. Couldn't do it during the presentation.
Well, thank you. I'm really honored to have the chance to talk with you today. First, the caveat, I am not a dentist, and I'm honored to be here as a representative of the medical, public health, maternal child health profession. And I have to say, frankly, often I feel like a fish out of water. When I talk to dental people, I think there's the attitude, well, you're not inside our profession. What do you have to tell us? You haven't gone through all the training we have, and that's true. And I'm always learning from you, and I've been on such a steep learning curve, trying to learn about all the details of the tooth and the microbiology and all the treatments that you do. But my perspective from the medical and public health side is also really hard, because when I talk to my colleagues in medicine and public health, they say, why are you interested in the teeth? How important can that be? So I feel like I'm trying to bridge the professions and always learning and always trying to find new ways to talk to dental professionals like you about how to talk to the medical and public health side, so we can be speaking the same language, so we can be putting all of our efforts together to try to make a healthier future for the children. So in my day job, I'm a professor at UC Berkeley, UCSF Joint Medical Program, and I teach general medicine. I also teach in the School of Public Health there. And then on the volunteer side, my nights and weekends and all my vacation time, I devote to children's oral health globally. So actually I want to start back 35 years ago, and after I graduated from college, I worked in the Peace Corps in Ecuador for 2 years in a rural area, and this is me back in the day. And I worked on child health and development, community health, and where I was working, it was a very poor village, and they had all of the health problems associated with poverty. Children had diarrheal disease, skin infections, respiratory disease. But I want you to take a look at the children's smiles. So tooth decay was not a problem back then, and I'm echoing what Rella said. Back then, people just ate straight from the farm. Fresh fruits, vegetables, milk, eggs, meat, and the children almost never had soda, sweetened beverages, junk food at all. And tooth decay wasn't a problem. This is the image that I keep in my mind every day of what children's smiles should look like. So then actually I came back to medical school, did my training, and 20 years later I returned to Latin America to start doing volunteer work. And this is what I saw. The old markets on the left sold fresh fruits and vegetables, and this is what the new markets look like now, selling a huge variety of processed junk foods and soda in huge volumes. Actually, here I took a photo of soda being sold 7 liters of soda at a time. 2 3.5-liter bottles hooked together by a sturdy plastic carrier. 7 liters for $1.29, and that's less than the cost of bottled water. So this is what's driving the problem. So this is what I saw. Returning to Ecuador, this is now 30 years later. This was a 5.5-year-old child. He had all of his 20 teeth decayed. Actually, we saw him the next year when he was 6.5. He had his 6-year molars. They were decayed as well. This was a rampant infection. And he is 5.5, and he weighed 27 pounds, which is the size of a 2-year-old. He was severely malnourished. He had constant mouth pain. He couldn't eat. He couldn't concentrate in school. This is the worst case scenario. And you might think, and I've actually read in the dental literature, this is a disease of poverty. But actually, his family was the most well-off family in the town. They owned the town store. which was actually set up right next to the school. And so the children on the way to school, at recess from school, on the way home from school, they stopped by the store, so they were doing very well, selling junk food and sweetened beverages. And he had 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week access to junk food. This was driving his problem. So I started asking the people about this. I had never learned in my medical training anything about tooth decay. I was taught to examine the throat, open wide, and we look past the teeth and we just look at the back of the throat. So this was all new to me when I started seeing this. And the mothers all told me my children's teeth are rotten, they complain of pain all the time. They can't eat, they can't sleep, they can't play, they can't concentrate in school. So I realized this is not just the teeth. This affects the whole nutrition, health, educational potential for children. And I started asking the dentist, and they said, well, we're bringing toothbrushing into the schools starting at age 6. And I realized that is way too late. So over the past 11 years, actually, I've had a chance to work in all of these countries. I brought groups of volunteers, including Ben Chaffee came to El Salvador with us. And we've had almost 300 volunteers working with us on this, mostly undergraduate students, but also medical students, dental students, public health students, and health professionals. And unfortunately, we find the same thing everywhere. Junk food is everywhere, and this disease is progressing everywhere. So I just want to point out a little data from our studies. At what age does this start and how does it progress? Here you can see parents giving their infants junk food. So this is just some preliminary data from a couple countries where we have convenience samples of populations of children in the communities, from El Salvador, from India here. And what you see the same as both, this is the prevalence of tooth decay by age from birth to age 6. And what you see is starting in the first year of life, just this steady increase in the prevalence of tooth decay, so that by 6 years of age, over 90% of the children have tooth decay. This is the average number of decay, missing, and filled teeth. Actually, in this case, virtually all were untreated in these children. Again, the inexorable rise in the number of caries in these decayed teeth in these children, up to 7 or 8 at age 6. So from the pediatrician standpoint, I see that as a third to half of the children's teeth are decayed. That's a huge burden. And I just want to show you a little data from Ecuador. This brilliant young dentist from New Zealand, Bethy Turton, who's been working in Cambodia for many years. She came and worked with us in Ecuador, and she did a little graphic representation. And what she did is she took our baseline data, and she's representing a graphic representation of the teeth. You'll see the teeth sort of splayed out in visual, and as the percentage of children in the population are increasing prevalence of caries, you'll see the teeth turning pink to darker red to dark red. So you'll actually be able to see the prevalence of caries in each teeth in the population by age over time. So I'll show you this. Okay, this is 1-year-olds in our Ecuador population. We had about 700 children. So you see, even in 1-year-olds, there are some teeth here that are starting to decay. 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. Okay? Shocking. So what can be done? Clearly, there's a huge burden of treatment. These children are suffering, they need treatment, but I believe that we're not going to get anywhere unless we focus on prevention, including preventing the causes, what the drivers of this, which is the nutrition transition. So here's a little graphic that I made to show this, thinking about the balance between prevention and treatment. Here are a population of children in which, say, 80% have caries. And basically, when we have a disease that's so prevalent in the population, we're never going to have enough dentists to treat them. And especially in developing countries, there's so few dentists, there's no hope of ever having enough to treat. And then the dentist who might see a few of the children, occasionally you'll get a perfect result, but sometimes they can only extract the one worst tooth there. But if we get, say, community health workers or dental nurses out into the community focusing on prevention and maybe even treatment with silver nitrate or other things, and we can reduce the burden of disease in the population, and also at the same time refer the children with the most severe disease to dental treatment, then we're actually going to have a better result on this side and a population in which we don't have such a burden of disease, and a happier tomorrow. So that's what I'm thinking. Again, the balance between prevention and treatment is very important. This is the intervention that we're doing. It's not perfect. We're trying to build on things other people have done. Prevention beginning in infancy, education on nutrition and oral health for community health workers, and they in turn educate the parents and children. Free toothbrushes and toothpaste, for fluoride toothpaste for all family members, not just for the children, because the parents also have this disease. We apply fluoride varnish on children's teeth 2 to 3 times per year, and then we refer the children to dental care. So I'm particularly interested in the connection between tooth decay and malnutrition in children. So this is what we know the causes of tooth decay. It's destroying the teeth, causing mouth pain, and chronic inflammation can contribute to malnutrition. And I'm hoping that by prevention, with good oral hygiene, good diet, we can reduce tooth decay and reduce those dental problems and reduce malnutrition. So I want to share a few just preliminary results with you from Ecuador, back to Ecuador. Here's our team. We're working in an indigenous community in the Amazon jungle region of Ecuador. They seem to be particularly susceptible to caries, like our Native American population in the United States and in Canada as well. Here's some of our designs. This is community-based. We only have pre and post intervention, no control. I didn't think that that was ethical, and we didn't have the resources to do it. It's like an Indian reservation where we're working. We have children 6 months through 6 years of age. We're trying to cover all of the children and families in the region. And we're collecting data yearly by interviews with the mothers and exams of the children, both dental and height and weight for nutrition. So many study limitations. So this is just preliminary. I just want to show you the caries experience by age. So actually in Ecuador, the prevalence of caries goes up so much faster than the other countries that we saw, so that by 1 year of age, already 50% of the kids had caries. By 2 years of age, over 80% had caries. And by 3 years of age, they're over 90% do. And you can see here the rise in DMFT as well, very fast, so that by 6 years of age, DMFT of 10 to 11. But this is the blue is our 2011 cross section, and the red is the 2013. And I want to show, but by our intervention, again, it's limited. We're not using a powerful antibacterial like silver nitrate. We've at least gotten the kids on a different trajectory, slightly slower increase in the prevalence of caries and slightly slower gain in DMFT for the children. But this is still tragic, still tragic. What I've realized is we need a much stronger antibacterial. These kids are still suffering, and the disease is rampant even with our intensive intervention. Here's the prevalence of mouth pain too. We've been able to control it somewhat with our intervention, but still we have a long way to go. And malnutrition too. This is the longitudinal sample, so a smaller proportion of children we were actually able to see 3 years in a row. And so these children here, 2 years later, they're here. These children here, 2 years later, they're here. And this is their malnutrition, height for age malnutrition or stunting, which has been a chronic problem throughout the developing world, and it's hard to reduce. But here we see that these children who started from birth have actually benefited from our intervention and have a substantial reduction in their malnutrition compared to where they were expected to be, compared to their older siblings, say. who are 2 years older, and these children too have a reduced malnutrition compared to their older siblings. So just in summary, I want to say we need to understand this Caries pandemic in the context of the other malnutrition and obesity pandemics, all connected by the processed foods and drinks. So we shouldn't be just saying we want to help the teeth, and then we'll still have children who are consuming the junk food and the sugar-sweetened beverages, and they'll have beautiful teeth, but they're going to be obese with diabetes, kidney failure, heart disease, and all of that. We need to address the whole picture there. And so here's my message to the dental community. One, collaborate with medical and public health professionals and systems. Thinking not only of intervening through dental clinics and dentists. Of course, there are not going to be enough dentists throughout the world, but also through maternal child health systems, community health workers, nurses, preschool teachers, and publish in the medical and public health journals. When you publish in the dental journals, you're preaching to the choir. The medical and public health community needs to see this. I was just shocked. I don't know whether you all are familiar with the malnutrition literature, but the Lancet every 5 years comes out with everything that's known about child malnutrition. It's a series of articles on child malnutrition, and the recent one was put out in 2013. And they listed all the causes of child malnutrition in the developing world, thousands of references. There was not one mention of tooth decay or mouth pain contributing to malnutrition. And Habib Benzian and I wrote a letter to the editor afterwards that wasn't published, and they said that the literature is not there to show the connection between tooth decay and malnutrition, which is shocking. You all have been publishing about this. So anyway, publish in medical journals, address the oral health and the nutrition contributors of caries, focus on treatment and prevention, start from birth. Most of us go to schools to intervene. At 6 years of age, it's too late. Start from birth and prenatal, ideally. Measure the successes. Don't just look at the teeth. We've reduced DMFT. Also look at quality of life, mouth pain, nutrition status, and school attendance, and performance and cost effectiveness. So I just want to leave you with a thought from one of the Salvadoran families who participated in intervention. They said, the mother said, we used to think there was nothing we could do about our children's rotten teeth and mouth pain. It was just a fact of life here. But now, childhood doesn't have to be a time of pain and malnutrition. It can be a time of good health and happiness. This is what I believe all children in the world deserve, and I hope we can work on making that a reality. Thank you.